Hey everybody, it's Brandon the Weekend Cruiser, where I go on a weekend cruise just about every weekend. But one thing that I recognize is that for a lot of you, a weekend cruise might be enough. Heck, sometimes it's not for me either. So I wanted to walk you through what some advanced cruising options are, meaning you can go for more than just the weekend cruise. So if you're looking at doing a 3-night sailing and you say, gosh, that's really not enough, you have some options to get that cruise craving fixed by number one, staying on the same ship. So if you book the exact next sailing after your first cruise, you're gonna do a back-to-back sailing. And so this will allow you to do a voyage for the 3-night and then a voyage for the 4-night. The other option that some people do is they will do what's called a side-to-side. So you say, hey, I want to do the 3-night on Freedom just to experience a weekend cruise. Brandon talks so highly about it. But then I want to go do a 7-night sailing. And sometimes you can actually get those to align. The Wonder was actually a really good example of this, where it has a Friday turnaround. So on Fridays, the Wonder of the Seas would come into Fort Lauderdale to Port Everglades, and then people would do a side-to-side down to Freedom of the Seas where they change ships. But I want to go into detail on what a back-to-back sailing looks like and what a side-to-side sailing looks like, so that you're going to know what to expect if you want to extend your cruise vacation. So the first thing to know is that whether you're doing either one of these options, it is super easy, and all the logistics are going to be taken care of for you, making your transition from one sailing to the next sailing seamless. So for a back-to-back sailing, I'm going to start with that, and then we can build onto it with the side-to-side. The back-to-back sailing, you're going to want to make sure that you're coordinating with a guest departure officer or the GAO, the guest administrative officer, or just anybody at guest services will be able to help you here. They should have a list of all of their consecutive cruisers. You just want to make sure that you made that list. If not, they can easily add you to it. This list will then let them know that they need to put you through this process of number one, sending you a letter a few days before the sailing ends. So this way you're going to know what the expectations of a consecutive cruiser are, or somebody that is doing a back-to-back. The first thing it's going to do is, number one, it's going to let you know how to schedule your COVID test. So yes, to do a back-to-back sailing, you have to be tested for every sailing. They will do this complimentary for you on the sailing the day before it ends. So if on a weekend cruise, for instance, you do a 3-night, you wanted to stay for the 4-night afterwards, you would do your COVID test on that Sunday morning, and they'll take care of all the results. They'll send it to your room or email you what that is going to be, but they're going to handle all the COVID logistics for you. The next thing that the sheet is going to walk you through is what is it you need to do if you are staying in the same cabin, which is the ideal solution, or if you are changing staterooms. Now, if you're staying in the same cabin, it is extremely easy. You just get to leave everything sitting out. You don't have to pack up. You do need to make sure that if you're doing this, the 2 rooms were available. So you can't get on the ship and tell them that, hey, I'm doing a back-to-back, can I stay in my room? Because somebody may have already booked that for that sailing. So you need to plan that at the time of booking your back-to-back, that you can stay in the same room. That is the easiest solution. You'll just leave your cabin and go to the consecutive cruisers meetup point. If you are changing staterooms, there's a little bit more work, but I assure you it is still easy. So what they're going to do is have you pack up everything into your room except for the items that are hanging. So they're going to bring a bell cart to your room, and they're going to load up your luggage, they're going to load up all of your hanging items, and they're going to automatically transfer that to your new stateroom. So even though everybody kind of gets annoyed that they have to pack, you still don't have to pack everything. So if you're like me and you hang a bunch of stuff up to start with, it's going to be a really easy transition for you. So morning of the cruise, so when everybody else is leaving or debarking the ship, what you're going to do is go to the consecutive cruisers meetup point. Now this is going to be on the Freedom of the Seas in the Star Lounge all the way forward. And they're going to have some coffee, they're going to have some muffins for you, and you're going to hang out here starting about 9:30 in the morning. Give or take the sailing, that can be a different number, so make sure you're looking at the instructions sent to your room on when you need to be there. But they're going to, first of all, check you in. They're going to give you your new room key, make sure that all of your vaccination information are up to date, you're checked into the sailing, and they're also going to give you this safety briefing. This is one of the neat things, is they're going to let you see and watch the safety video there. You don't have to do it on your mobile phone. Everybody will get to watch it. And then depending on the ship, I've seen it done 2 different ways. You may or may not have to go to your muster station afterwards, because they'll go ahead and check you in and say that yes, you have done all of your safety instructions and all of your safety videos. So you're going to hang out in this consecutive lounge until the ship gets to what they call a 0 count. That means that there needs to be no other guest on the ship. So the ship is now at 0 guest on it, so that you all, the consecutive cruisers, will now leave the ship. So once the ship gets to a 0 count, they're going to have everybody that is in the consecutive lounge go through customs as well. So everybody wants to know, if you do a back-to-back, do you have to get off the ship? Yes, you have to get off the ship. Everybody is required to go through customs once again. So you will walk off the gangway, go through the terminal, go through customs, and then you will promptly come back onto the ship. Now, these times can always vary. There's some people that I think just hide in closets so they don't have to leave the room at the right time. So you may get a little bit delayed. There may be issues with customs or something going on that can cause this to be a little bit later. But normally, you're going to be back in your cabin by 10:30 in the morning. And because you may have already stayed in that room or you're having your items transferred, you are permitted to go ahead into your room. You don't have to stay out and enjoy an empty ship, which honestly is a really nice thing to do. You'll have the pool all to yourself for a few hours, but you can go back to your room during this time. And oftentimes, they will do a consecutive cruiser lunch. So for those people that do stay on board, they do a really nice lunch in the main dining room between noon and 1 o'clock. That's going to have some short ribs on it that I personally love to order. And it makes sure that you get some good food and you don't have to go queue up at El Loco Fresh. Now, a side-to-side is a little bit more complicated. It's still pretty straightforward, but it is a little bit more complicated. Now, the instructions will still be sent to your room. You're still going to need to take the COVID test on the ship that you're on before transferring to your next one. And the difference is going to be, you're going to need to pack up your room. Clearly, you want to take all of your stuff with you, and you're going to have certain baggage tags letting everybody know that you need to leave at this specific time. So even if you are in a suite, if you're a Pinnacle, you're going to get a different bag tag signifying that you are going to be transferring. You're then going to walk off the ship at the time that the guest departure officer lets you know. They're the ones that coordinate the shuttle and make sure that you're on the list. Again, check in just to make sure that you're on the list, but then you'll need to go outside at the time that they are giving you. I will go ahead and say that I've heard mixed reviews on the shuttle service in transferring terminals. So if you're going for changing ports, if you have gone from Miami to Port Everglades, for instance, I've heard mixed reviews on how this works. So sometimes you may have to swing by the airport to drop some people off. It's not a direct shot. Or you could be expecting to stand outside for a while. They may tell you to walk off the ship at 8:30. There may not actually be anybody at the ship, or the shuttle might not actually be there until later. When I did it, they told us to be off the ship at 8:30. They then had the shuttle arrive at 9:30, and we didn't leave until 10:30, getting to Port Everglades from Miami around 11:15, 11:30. So it is a longer day than you may be expecting, and oftentimes I think some people would just choose to take an Uber if they're changing ports. If you are going from Terminal A, for instance, where in Port Miami, where all the Royal ships sail out of, and you've got another one like an Explorer of the Seas or Jewel of the Seas going out of Terminal G, there is actually no shuttle service that's going to be provided for that. You can actually even change cruise lines for this one. And there's no shuttle service provided within that terminal. You're going to need to take a taxi or a cab because it is quite the walk to go from one to the next. If you're doing Norwegian from Terminal A, maybe that one will work for you, but the other ones would be too far of a walk. Some best practices when you are going on a side-to-side, given the amount of time that it's going to take that you're honestly going to be off the ship. Number one, make sure that you do eat breakfast or take some snacks with you. Also, make sure that you use the restroom beforehand. There are no restrooms on the bus. There are a few outside of the terminals, but they're not on the bus, and that's where we were for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So just make sure that you are prepared for the journey to take a little bit of time. If you're in a laid-back, relaxed manner, you'll be absolutely fine. But if you want to just hurry up and get to the ship and be the first ones to board your second cruise, I would encourage you to call an Uber, rideshare service, or take one of the taxis from the port. All right, everybody, this is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, hoping to see you on a weekend cruise or longer sailing soon.